And thank you guys for joining us again for our second virtual rally. We wanted to do this again to make sure that we are getting as much information and resources as we possibly can out to the community. And this is like a good time to come together, what with most people still being stuck indoors and having the time to sit and pay attention to what's happening in the world and what's available, what's helpful, what things that we can use to progress, to move forward, to make our lives better. So today we will be discussing politics. We will be discussing mental health, physical health, how to stay safe with the virus out. We're going to be having a lot of good information going today. Feel free to comment with your questions. If you have anything to add to the conversation, feel free to put it in the comment section. This is going to stay on our page, so if you missed it the first time around, it'll be available afterwards. So, with that being said, let's get started. We are going to start with one of my sorors and Savannah State alumni. She is a political candidate in Atlanta, and I am going to let her give you guys more information about politics because this is an arena that I am not experienced in. So, Ladina, you have the floor.
Good evening, everybody. I am really excited to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me, especially now with the pandemic. It is more difficult to get in front of people because they fear for their safety. But this is a great platform to share everything political right now. Everybody is watching. But I did want to give you just a little bit about my background. I have never run for office before. Prior to now, I had little interest in politics like most people. But because of the climate of what's going on, it made me feel like I needed to get more involved. My background is actually in chemistry. I have a PhD in chemistry. So a lot of folks were confused, like, how did you go from chemistry to politics? Well, the pandemic requires chemistry, biology, a whole lot of science. And then you think about the environment, and when you hear scientists say, oh, we have about 10 more good years on this planet before we've used up all of the non-renewable resources. Science. More now than ever, we need more scientists making decisions about where we need to go moving forward so that our children and our children's children can live just as well as we did when we were younger. We get into that age, where we say, man, when I was a kid, it was like this, and that. And I remember hearing my parents talk like that. Like, yeah, when you were a kid, that was like 100 years ago. Things are way different now. But 3 things, and I'm probably talking a lot because I'm really excited, but 3 things I want to make sure that everybody takes away from this conversation. The first thing is every 2 years, at a minimum, every 2 years, you need to be looking for something to vote for. And I say something because the ballot doesn't always include people to vote for. Sometimes it's initiatives to vote for. And that's something that we don't usually think about when we think voting. A lot of us just think about voting for president. Number 2, if you don't personally know someone who has run for office, it might be because you need to be that person. I recommend that everybody that is on this Zoom meeting, everybody that's watching on Facebook and later on YouTube, if you don't know somebody personally that has run for office, that person may need to be you, okay? And that third thing is local. We're starting to hear that more often now than we've heard previously. Voting local is much more important than voting for president. One of the reasons we think president is so important is that nationally and now even internationally, the president gets so much press. Locally, we don't get as much press unless there's controversy around you or you've already made a really big name for yourself. But we can make more of an impact if we pay more attention to what's going on locally. And I'll give you some examples of things that have been brought up just recently. Hate crimes bill. The president isn't really interested in hate crimes. However, we can push our governor to pass a hate crimes bill, and we've actually done that. So the incident that happened with Brother Ahmaud Arbery, the incident that happened in Florida, of course, with Trayvon Martin, and all of the different incidences in between. A lot of that can be reconciled if we pay more attention to what's going on locally, and not just the governor, but because the governor, and not even the president, doesn't even have autonomy for what goes on. You know who makes the biggest impact? The House of Representatives and the Senate. We have a US House of Representatives and a US Senate, which works with the president, but we also have a state House of Representatives and a state Senate that works with the governor to get stuff done. And those people go unnoticed all the time. And that's why I decided to run for the state level House of Representatives, because I believe we need more people from our communities representing our communities. People who can relate to us and we relate to them. We've had the same issues that they've had. We've been their neighbors. We've gone through it with them. We've helped them. They've helped us, and vice versa. So we can speak more readily to their issues and make sure that we're addressing those issues. You would be amazed at the stuff they talk about if you go to the Capitol. And anybody can go. You can go and just listen in on what they're talking about. Sometimes they say, whoa, wait. We need to talk about how I can continue to protect my assets, like my yachts and my summer homes, and what kind of tax breaks can I get to do all of these different things and send my children to private school. A lot of those concerns, folks in my community, we don't have those concerns. So I'm going to repeat those 3 things again, because I want to make sure that we do not forget them. Number 1, make sure at least every 2 years you are looking to vote for something, okay? Oh, and I will mention this, on the Democratic ballot in Georgia, one thing that has been at the top of the list that we're voting for is whether felons, after they're served their term, served their debt to society, I should say, should they be able to get all of their rights back as citizens? Because currently they don't. And we shouldn't continue to punish them for something that they've already reconciled, per se, through the government. So make sure you are looking for that. I just wanted to make sure that I put that out there. But number 1, make sure every 2 years you're going to vote for something. Make sure also that you are, if you don't know someone personally who has run for office, you probably should be that someone. All of us on this line know enough about what's going on in order to make an argument for ourselves, our children, and the people in our neighborhoods that we see every day. And then number 3, local. Emphasize local more than anything else. And is everybody on the line in Georgia? Well, I know Tanya isn't, but is everybody else in Georgia? Yeah.
I'm in Florida.
Georgia. Yeah. So we know, like in Georgia, all the tomfoolery that's going on. One thing that I want to make sure that I put out there too, that I have been trying to get NAACP involved in. So everybody's heard about Governor Kemp, who is basically suing the mayor of Atlanta, Keisha Lance Bottoms, for putting out the mandate with the masks, right? Most of us don't know she wasn't the first mayor to do that. Savannah, who is a Black mayor, he put out a mandate first. I believe either Macon or Augusta, but there were a couple of cities in Georgia that put out the mandate first, but we didn't hear about any lawsuits against any of the other cities, right? We just heard about Atlanta. So that's something that we should be concerned about with regards to what the governor is doing. But not only that, if you think about what's going on with the injustices with the police officers, and who's going to enforce these mandates? These mandates are in Atlanta, primarily African-American. DeKalb County now has a mandate, primarily African-American. Savannah, quite a few African-American people. So we're dependent on police officers who we're having issues with right now to enforce these mandates for masks. Now, every situation that we've seen recently started out as just your basic situation. No one, the person who the police were called on, they didn't have any weapons. They didn't have any real issues going on. But by the time the situation escalated, that young man usually ended up dead. So not that I don't agree with the mandates. I think we should be concerned about the enforcement of the mandates. And I just wanted to put that on your mind, because everybody's like jumping on the bandwagon, like, yeah, we need these mandates. I understand them, they're great, but we still need to be cognizant about if our people will be targeted for not wearing masks. Okay. Just really important that we pay attention to what policies are being put in place. And y'all are so quiet. Y'all don't have no questions.
I got a question.
We are listening. This is not like our arena, and so this is like stuff that we're unfamiliar with. I don't know like this much about politics, so I'm learning as I'm listening.
Yeah.
I get it.
I have one question.
Yeah.
So you said about the whole Governor Kemp is suing Keisha Lance Bottoms, Mayor Bottoms, for the mandate, but she wasn't the first, you said, right?
Right.
Why do you think that's a concern that he's going after her, but not the others?
Over the past year, of all the leaders, not just mayors, when I say leaders, I'm talking about county commissioners, CEOs, school board, because all of these people are elected officials. Your sheriff is elected, your tax commissioner is elected. We have a lot of judges. Out of all the different elected positions over the past year, who have you heard the most about? Who have you heard may even potentially be on the vice presidential ticket? Who is getting all this publicity for doing the right thing in the midst of the governor doing the wrong thing? I think it's a personal vendetta. I do. It's definitely not a race issue, because the other mayors are of color, some African American, and she is basically, they've even called her the real governor of Georgia. If you've seen some news media or news outlets where they're replacing him already, and his term isn't over for what, another year. So I think it's a personal vendetta. I do.
Okay. I got you. Thanks.
I like to, I believe that because of her constituency here in Atlanta is so heavily colored, and because Atlanta is such a highly Black city, I feel like the governor also feels that he can say what he wants to her, but he's really saying that to the city of Atlanta. He's really saying it to the area. Like, y'all may not be the ones that like us. Y'all may not be the ones that vote for us, but I'm the governor of this state, and I got all of my other constituents. They're voting for me in the rest of Georgia. The backwoods and the smaller towns and the places that have higher rates of I'll say, I guess, open racism or overt racism. It's like, because here in Atlanta, people are less apt to be so racist towards you just because there's so many Black people around. Like,
yeah,
and these Black people aren't afraid to, I hate to say it, be aggressive, be violent. But you go to other places, kind of tone down a little bit. It's like, okay, they have rebel flags, they say the N-word, they have areas where Black people can't go, so it's kind of more relaxed there. But here in Atlanta, it's like you can't really get away with that type of racism. And so I feel like he's kind of being harder on her just because she represents, such a highly Black influential place. I mean, Atlanta influences the rest of the world right now in terms of culture, and all that culture is Black culture. And I'm pretty sure that puts a bad taste in his mouth because that comes from his state, the state that he governs.
Makes sense.
Yeah, you're right about that. But where he's getting, actually, this is a time where he has additional powers that he wouldn't normally have because he declared a state of emergency. So with the state of emergency, what that document says is that he no longer has to go through our state level House of Representatives and Senate to make all of his decisions. Some decisions he can just make them because he feels like they're the right thing to do. So he's basically in a position where he can abuse that power. So now that we can vote, we can't vote him out this year, but a lot of the people in, and we call it the General Assembly at the state level, not the Congress. So a lot of the people in the General Assembly, they're up for re-election. And right now the Republicans have a majority in the state level. So this is the time to weaken his position by voting those people out as best we can, and then making sure that we have those folks in place that will speak on our behalf. But even if it wasn't working at the state level, guess what? We still have our county governments and our city governments who obviously have a lot of power, because Keisha Lance Bottoms, that sister is doing her thing, you know. She's moving much more quickly than a lot of other leaders that have the capacity to do the same things that she's doing. So it's the power that we put in that position. And she's just like any one of us. Like, we know she's a Delta. She comes from Greekdom like a lot of us. Her father was in prison. So she came from what they would say a broken home. And statistically, she wasn't supposed to be as successful as she is. So there is nothing that says you or me or anybody else can't be in any of those positions. We just have to have the will to do it. And I hope to support every last one of y'all in your run next year for some seat.
Unless you run again, then I will be behind you. Because you know a lot about stuff. So please don't stop being involved in politics and letting us know this type of information, because we don't know this type of stuff. This is stuff that we probably glossed over in like elementary school, like the basic stuff. We didn't really get deep in that. Even in like college, it wasn't as widely discussed, and it was just like a class we had to take and then got past it, and not knowing like this is your life. Politics are very important. We need to know this stuff. If we're going to complain about these policies and procedures and politicians, we got to know about it so that we can all fix it. So if you keep running for political offices, you already know you got our support. So please, please stay being involved. And thank you. Peter, I'm going to unmute you so that you can help us with some territory that I am also not very well at, and that's like physical fitness. And you are wonderful at it. So please let us know why it's so important and stuff that we can do while we're at home, because the gyms aren't really a good place to go to right now to work at, and there's a lot of people who still want to exercise, and they're using the gyms being closed as an excuse not to work out. So I need you to give us reasons not to have that excuse.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure I don't need to give a reason why that shouldn't be an excuse, but honestly, because we all know, right? We all know we should be healthy. We all know that we need to exercise and take care of ourselves. One of the biggest things, and it's crazy because like with my family right now, this is one of the things I'm putting a lot of effort into, and just not even my family, clients, just people I meet every day. And hopefully you guys can take this as well. One of the most underappreciated, undervalued, underestimated forms of exercises that you guys can start is just go for a walk. Like, especially with this quarantine right now, so many of us are staying indoors and not doing anything. And you don't have to do anything fancy. You ain't got to go to get the weights and all that stuff. I promise you, is not necessary. Just get in the habit of going for a walk. Like, if you could just start doing like a 30-minute walk every day, you'll be amazed at how that's going to make you feel and how your body is going to change just from doing that. So for a lot of you guys who may be struggling to get in shape or build the habit of exercising, I highly recommend starting there. Like, even me, that I'm in fitness, you know, I do have my periods where I just don't feel like working out. But one of the things that I make sure I do is either I'll go for a walk or go for a run. So I don't see enough of us when I'm out here. I'm not gonna lie, I see a lot of our people are starting to now incorporate that. I see a lot of us at parks going for walks and things like that, but not enough. There's still too many of us who are staying indoors and, you know, possibly binge watching Netflix and things like that. I just started working with my cousin who's a software programmer, and he's having an issue that I know a lot of us are having, and that is we're starting to get these niggling pains, like my back hurts, my hip hurts, my knee hurts. Well, the reason these things are hurting is because you are losing the understanding of your body. You don't know how to use them anymore. So it's almost like you're forgetting. So when you go to start doing anything, it's like your body, your connection to your body is no longer as it used to be. So one of the fundamentals, what I like to do, and I like to call myself a fundamental movement specialist, not necessarily a trainer, because that's the area where I like to focus on, which ultimately is trying to teach people just the fundamentals, the basics of what you should know as a person in order to have a fit and capable body. And how did I come to what I deem the fundamentals? It's just like, you know, go back to nature. And where were we in our most natural state? When we were children. So if you look at children and watch how they move, a lot of us are not capable of doing these things anymore. So, you know, I've watched, how many people do you guys know that, you know, if they were on the ground and had to stand up, they would either need you to help them or they had to grab everything around them just to stand up? We all know at least a few people like that. You know what I'm saying? And that's something that I've started to notice has become a commonality amongst a lot of our people. Is it's not even about, a lot of people go to the gym because they want to look good and they're worried about the aesthetics and they want the six pack, but they're losing their natural ability just to be, to live, to move. And I think that is what we should now be focusing on. So if I had to give some fundamental movements that I would say you should work on and you can work on every day, it would be something simple as, okay, let's look at a baby, right? Let's look at the stages that a baby takes to learn how to actually move, right? Because what I argue that most people can't do a lot of these things anymore. So the first thing is, what I've observed is, for any of you guys who may be parents or have children or been around children, you can hopefully back me up on this. The first stage in terms of a baby learning to control its body is it has to learn to hold its head up, right? So a lot of us can't control those same muscles anymore because we're always in our phones, we're on the computer. So a lot of people can't control the muscles in their neck. So how do I try and teach them to understand how to do that? Well, I have them do exercises like planks or push-ups, which requires them to keep their body in a certain position where they're holding their head up. So if I had to give you first exercise, learn how to hold a plank position, because what you're doing is you're teaching yourself how to control your core and your spine and your neck and your head, and learning to keep that stable. Similar to when a baby is on its hands, on its stomach, and it's trying to hold its head up. That's where a baby learns how to hold its head up. So as an adult, you should be able to do that, no problem, right? That's the first stage. The next one is going to be sitting up. Once the baby can hold his head up, now it has to be able to, you can, like as a parent, you can now keep your baby there in a seated position. So that's sit-ups. As an adult, you should be able to lay on your back and sit up. Most people can no longer do that. So that's something you can do at home every day. Do some sit-ups. What I'm not going to give you an amount, because ultimately the goal is you should get to a point where you should be able to sit up, no problem, you should be able to sit up as comfortably as you can. You know, it shouldn't be a struggle. So however many repetitions that takes for you, that's on you to discover for yourself. If you want to start off with just being able to get up 5 times, that's fine. But it's all about consistency. So now that you can sit up, the next thing a baby does is crawls. Now it can crawl from point A to point B. I actually make adults crawl, because that's how you're learning. That's how the baby is learning how to coordinate itself with its arms and its legs, and also control and keep its body under control. So crawling, doing something so simple as just in your living room or down the hallway, crawl up the stairs, things like that. You're learning to work the body as a unit, the arms and the legs and the abs and everything all together. You're learning to work everything. After crawling, then it's standing up, or what you guys are probably familiar with, lunges, things like that. But being able to be on your knees and then standing straight up. Again, people struggle with that. I've seen it too many times. So even if you have to hold something to do it until you get stronger, and then just continue to progress yourself as best as you can. Once you can now lunge, then like I said earlier, go for a walk. You can now stand up, go for a walk, jog, run, whatever you feel comfortable with, but everything is a progression, right? Once you're able to now walk, then you probably not, some of you guys probably heard this before, but you've heard of deadlifts. But all deadlifts are just being able to pick something off the ground in a safe manner. That's it. That's all a deadlift is. So then you can start exercising with that. Find something that has a little bit of weight to it and just learn how to pick it up and put it back down. Pick it up, put it back down. And just try and do it without hurting your back, right? Then once you can pick things up, learn how to carry things like you're carrying the grocery bags, things like that. Those are all exercises. So you don't need the gym to be able to do all these things. Then from there, you can, if you want, go outside, have fun, go throw things, go jump, climb, things like that. But just get in the habit of being active, So just get in the habit of being active ultimately is all we need. That's all fitness is. Fitness is just being fit enough to live and take and move and do everything that you want to be able to do. You need a fit body to do that. It's not about doing the fancy exercises or grabbing, doing a whole bunch of squats and deadlifts and stuff like that. It's being healthy and fit. That's the first step. And then from there, you transition to whatever it is you need to be able to do. But first, you need to be able to do at least the basic and the fundamentals before you can do anything else. Because if you try to jump and start doing anything else, that's where the injuries start. So just to run that back, first thing is I would recommend is planks, then sit-ups, then crawling, then lunges, or just getting on your knees and standing up and then going back down to the ground and standing up. Then walking, jogging, running, wherever you are in terms of your fitness level. Picking things up like deadlifts, being able to pick something up, putting it back down, regardless of the weight. Practice with your couch, pick up your child, put the child down, whatever it is, just pick something up off the ground and put it back down and just learn how to do that safely. Then, carrying things, fill up 2 jugs of water and learn how to carry that on either side. Just learning how to control yourself and control your body. But if all that is too complicated for you to do by yourself, then the biggest thing I would just recommend is go for a walk, go for a run. Those are easy. Just get outside, right? It doesn't have to be anything complicated. Just keep it real simple, because sometimes when we start thinking of so many things, it can become overwhelming. And when it's overwhelming, we're a lot less likely to do it. So if anything I've said is too overwhelming, just go for a walk, go for a run, and be outside. You can put your masks on, social distance, but get fresh air, get sunlight. Especially us, we need sunlight. So especially we're going into the fall, typically flu season, all that. Get enough vitamin D now to kind of help you going into that period. So yeah, we don't have any more casualties. So any questions?
Yes, that was. I'm one of those people that get overwhelmed.
Suggestions on certain supplements that we might need during this time?
Okay, can you say that again?
I said, do you have any suggestions or any advice on certain supplements that we might need to incorporate as well with the physical fitness?
Supplements? Well, obviously the first thing is your food, right? But it all, in terms of supplements, it all comes down to what is the need, right? So I'm not a big fan personally of supplements. I don't take any unless there's someone that I specifically need, like I'm lacking in. I used to take vitamin D, but ever since, and I don't know, the sun lately this year has, in my opinion, has been amazing. So I've been outside like every day getting some sun. So I don't take vitamin D anymore. I used to take multivitamins, but I've been eating a lot more fruits and vegetables. My energy has been so much better, so I don't take those anymore. So again, it just comes down to what you need personally, and so it's a tough one for me to just give out a recommendation. I know the ones back in the day that I know that I used to recommend as fundamentals would be typically um, a multivitamin, a good one. And if you guys are going to do multivitamins, I would highly recommend looking for one that's either in capsule form or liquid, because they absorb better as opposed to the hard pills. The hard pills, your body doesn't break them down. And that's oftentimes where if you ever paid attention, if you look at after you take a multivitamin, if you look at your pee, it's really, really dark. And that's because a lot of it wasn't absorbed. So I would say start there. And you guys understand why you want to take multivitamins, right?
Tell us.
Okay. So multivitamins are important because, they say we're not getting enough nutrients from the food that we're eating, right? Now, why do we need nutrients? So this is how I've rationalized it in my understanding of it. Think of, how you read a book, right? You read a book, and on each book it has words. And when you read those words, you gain an understanding of whatever it is you're reading, and it affects how you now act, hopefully. So think of every fruit or vegetable that you eat as a book. And in that fruit and vegetable, the words in that are the nutrients and minerals that are in that fruit. So it's a book for your body. Your body is getting information from those food sources in order for it to know what it's supposed to do and how it's supposed to function. So when you're giving your body food that is not as nutrient dense, then in essence, it's like you're retarding yourself, and your body doesn't know what it's supposed to do, or at least it acts according to what you give it. So with the nutrients that you're giving it, the minerals, you're giving your body the signal, the message, the information it needs to function as it should. But when it's lacking those things, it can't function as it should. Does that make sense?
That was a good analogy.
That was good. I appreciate that. All right, cool. Awesome. All right. Any other questions?
I think health-wise, like especially with the baby analogy in terms of exercise and the book analogy with nutrition, I think breaking it down like that really does help people, because people do see nutrition and health as this overwhelming big thing they got to try to do. They got to go bench press 300 pounds. They got to go run a 5K. They have to be eating nothing but water and hot water and cold water. And they don't have to, they just think it's all just strict, Superman stuff. So the way you broke it down, that really does, I think that plays a role in how people take in the information. Because, I mean, if you can't be healthy and you can't move, you can't breathe, you can't do all those things, how are you going to get out here and try to help better Black people in any way? You can't help somebody from your deathbed. So you got to be out here. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, and that's true. That's 100% true. I remember seeing something not too long ago where it said, taking care of your health is the ultimate revolutionary act. And I 100% agree with that, because I personally think us as a people, the biggest area that honestly, if we decided to focus on that, even if we all decide to focus on that 100%, it will have a tremendous impact in every other area of our lives, of our human existence. If we just all decided, you know what, let's just get healthy. Let's worry about everything else later. Let's just focus on gain health. And you'll notice how it's not like we ignore everything else. We'll be able to take care of what other responsibilities we may have in other areas so much better because we are healthy. And I think that is one of the areas in which we are really held back is our health. Like for one, the mere fact that, you know, children aren't taught health, anatomy, all these things as kids. Because the biggest thing that I found, and the reason why a lot of people struggle, they just don't understand how this thing works. It's just, this is my body. And I personally believe that nobody should know, I don't care if this person's a trainer, a doctor, a nurse, a nutritionist, whatever. Nobody should know more about my body than me, because I was given this, not you. You know what I'm saying? So I get it. You're in that field, but ultimately, this is my body. I need to know how it works. I need to know the ins and outs of it, because again, this is all I was given when I came here. This is the only thing that I actually own. So to me, we should be educating ourselves on these things, on health, on anatomy, on nutrition, all these things. Everybody should know just the fundamentals, and then we can experiment with it on our own, just based on our own individual preferences, lifestyles, whatever. But ultimately, I think that's something that we should be implementing in schools or in whatever way we can to get children to really learn more about their health, you know? So, I mean, is it Ladina? I hope I'm saying it right. I'm hoping that something, Ladina, I'm hoping that when you are running, that's something that you emphasize in one of your, it's going to be one of your campaign promises, because I'll definitely be behind that 100%, because that's something that I feel very strongly about. Teach the children about their bodies first, before anything else.
I'm glad you said that, Peter, because actually since I've been running, I've had a couple people reach out to me about trying to eradicate the issue of food desert in DeKalb County. Food desert is a buzzword that just means basically you don't have enough good food close enough to you. Whether I don't remember if that number is in a distance of 1 mile or 2 miles. I think it might be 1 mile. I don't remember the specifics of that number, but you don't have enough good food close to you to keep you and the people in your community healthy. So I've had folks reach out about so many different things. Like, y'all should look up an aquaponic farm. I'm a scientist, so I think that is like the coolest thing ever. And if I could just say what it is really quickly, basically you have the fish fertilize your plants. It's a whole cycle where you have like a small aquarium of fish, they poo in the water.
She froze. Does that mean
an efficient process? Yeah. And then when the water goes through to the plants take out nitrates and different things. So it's basically cleaning the water to an extent and sending the water right back to the fish. So it's a very efficient system, but using that system in collaboration with some other things to address the issues of food desert, but using that also to educate the community on good, clean food and having them come there and be a part of that garden, not just offering the service, but offer them to be a part of that community. So it's a whole lot that's going into it. And so we might need you to come in and help.
Oh no, I would love
good food.
I would love to, because you know, it's an area that I don't know, I've always been interested in learning about the body. Like I used to, back when I was younger, I wanted to play sports. But once you get older, you start realizing, okay, I'm not about to really go into that. But I was always still so fascinated with the body, you know. And the more I've learned about the body, it's kind of like it's kind of mad. I got mad. I was like, how am I learning about this in my 30s? Stuff that I could have learned when I was like 12, you know? And I really do think if we don't find some way of integrating proper health education to children, you're stunting their development. And it has a detrimental impact to not just them, but us as a community as a whole, because they're growing into adults who don't know anything about their bodies. You know, and the average person,
Yes.
this is all they know when, okay, I'm take this food, I'm put it in my mouth, and I know it goes down to my stomach and then I poo it out. That's it. They don't know what happens the entire
And that's
process
why
of breaking
people
it down.
need
And
to go see people
because
like Dr.
when you,
Meredith here.
yeah, but when you know, when you actually understand that process, going back to this lady who asked about what supplements I would recommend. When you understand the process of what is going on in your body, you'll be able to know what's off, and then you'll be able to know, okay, this is what I need. But it's all about gaining the understanding for how this thing works.
And Dr. Meredith, for those of us that are are not that educated about how the physical anatomy works and biology, like Peter, his fitness, and my sister who was on with us last time. That's why you're around, and I need you to stress the importance of early screening detection. And I need you to let people that do not believe that the coronavirus is real, I need you to let them know that this is still a very real thing and it's still very serious.
Okay. And I can get chatty, so I'm gonna ask to do like a 5-minute warning. Let me know, because I'll keep going. But I'm very excited to be here. I am just loving the empowerment, loving the circular learning. So thank you for having me, first of all. So I'm Meredith Pula Burgess. I'm originally from Georgia Peach all day, currently in Tallahassee, Florida. My background is in public health. I got my doctorate in public health from Florida A&M University in behavioral science and health education. So I'm loving how it fits in with the first presenter talking about the political climate, things going on, the physical health and exercise and nutrients. I think it all works together, and I'm just really excited just to be around so many empowering minds. So I was just trying to think about what I could say, just because the whole climate, everything going on is health, coronavirus, politics. It's just such a convoluted environment with so many things going on. I figured I would start off by sharing why I do what I do and why I'm passionate about it. I'm very passionate about equalizing the playing field for our people. Historically, we've always been behind the curve. Even when you look at the health of Hispanics and Latinos, African Americans have a persistent lag in a lot of areas. So that's one thing, equalizing the playing field. The other thing is holistic health. And we're talking about physical health, even when you consider the political environment, social economic status. I feel like mental health, all those things create a whole person. How healthy is somebody that has physical fitness, good mental health, but they don't have good social economic status, or they're not aware of how to vote or aware of their rights? So all of it works together on this continuum of health and well-being, which I'm very much passionate about. And also being able to, I'm a researcher by trade at Florida State University, and so much research out there. This is my last point of why I'm passionate. And it's almost like every article, every research you see, it says, this should be done, findings should do this. And my thing is, okay, well, let's get all these words and put it into action. I'm very passionate about translating things to communities that need it, making sure it's adaptable, and figuring out how to adapt it so it can actually make a difference and improve health outcomes, and not just physical health outcomes. So that's why I do what I do, and that's why I'm excited to be here and loving the conversation. So I'm going to start off with just about coronavirus. I am by no means an expert on COVID-19, but I am an expert in public health and health education. And I can say that we are battling two things with coronavirus. We're battling misinformation and we're battling coronavirus. And I think it's very important to know, and everybody's probably heard this, the term novel coronavirus. That means it's new, which means it's evolving. The things that we know now, we didn't know back in March. And there's going to be things we find out in October that we didn't know in June. So the whole idea of coronavirus, being aware that the information coming at you is evolving. You have several people invested in this as far as scientists and healthcare professionals, but it's also it's an election year. Everything's hyper politicized. So it can be very difficult to weed out the information that is true and fact versus things that are meant to sway your thinking and divide. So one point when it comes to misinformation, when you are reading something about coronavirus or hearing it, double check your sources. That I cannot stress that enough. Just because we have the internet, everybody has access to it, and it's easy to put something out there on social media or a blog, and it just keeps going and nobody's doing any fact checking on it. So that's the first thing with coronavirus, as far as making sure you're checking the source of your information. I constantly, and even when you think about government information, it's almost like, do I want to trust that? And I'll get to that in a minute, because historically, the government in terms of health has not been too kind to us. There is an underlying mistrust that we have in general when it comes to things of health. And I think that that is something that we have to consider, but I'm sort of getting taught off. Anyway, so with coronavirus, you know, the main things that we have right now, like we have a toolbox. And in that toolbox for COVID-19, the only things we have right now is social distancing, washing your hands, and having face coverings when you're in a large group of people. At first, there was a lot of conversation about transfer from surfaces, which is still a case, but a lot of scientists, particularly the CDC, have said that the transmission more so occurs with large groups of people in close contact. That's where the virus spreads and festers, particularly among vulnerable older adults or people with underlying illnesses. But in the coronavirus toolbox, those are the only three things we have. We don't have a vaccine yet. They don't have, this is the treatment. They don't really have a standard of care like in the books for coronavirus. So those are the things that we have to hold on to. Another thing would be and it's hard to stay in the house and quarantine. For me, going to the grocery store is like the highlight of my week, which is sad, but it's the reality, you know. But before you do anything, you have to assess your risk of going out, and that's even to the grocery store. I talk to some people, they only go to the grocery store every 10 days. I have a tendency to go 2 or 3 times a week. Or even if you're going to be around family or whatever the case, you have to assess your risk. The longer you are in an environment, the higher your risk goes up when it comes to that. So in grocery store, you're sort of in and out or you're passing, but it's the amount of time and the opportunity for different people to be close in proximity that elevates the risk. So always assess your risk before engaging. It's hard, especially for younger people, to stay put or stay inside. So I would, you know, you can't really, and we see it in this political environment now. You know, people's like, I have a right to do this. I have a right to go. I have, you know, you're not going to mask me and face cover me. And those things are true, but as a people, we need to make sure that we are assessing our risks. We're being smart about it, using wisdom, and not being afraid to speak up because of stigma or you scared of coronavirus or anything like that, because we have a tendency to do that as well. So that's what's in my coronavirus toolbox. The next thing I wanted to just sort of talk about is this idea of importance of health screening, early detection. But before I do that, I want to talk about how coronavirus has compounded an already existing issue in the African American community. So pre-coronavirus, there are significant disparities in African American communities. Health disparities, meaning we have excess deaths from heart disease, blood pressure, issues, diabetes. We have more chronic illnesses. We have more rates of obesity. We have higher rates of HIV and STDs. All those things were already existing before coronavirus came on the scene, right? And coronavirus came on the scene and has compounded that for our people. And that is something we have to consider when we're talking about assessing risk. And that's why you see a large amount of African Americans either getting the illness or passing away from it. In addition to them being essential workers, they were the ones that have to actually be out and going on the job versus other people that might have the luxury of working from home, etc. So I think that it's important to just understand that the coronavirus has compounded something already existing. And from the speaker that was right before me talking about taking advantage and being healthy and being able to know our bodies, it's important now more than ever, just because we have another layer of something that is targeting us or that can easily target us in our communities. So and then the historically health disparities exist, but there's always been this historical mistrust. Many of you guys have probably heard of the public health syphilis study at Tuskegee, which it's sort of almost like a benchmark event that happened that caused our people to just be like, we don't trust public health, we don't trust what they're saying, they don't have our best interest at hand. And there's been other events that happened since then. Henrietta Lacks is another example of us being sort of misinformed, afraid to ask questions, afraid to engage in a conversation with the healthcare provider, and sort of walking away lacking information and being taken advantage of. So it's very important that I don't want to say it's important that we trust the system, but it's important that we arm ourselves with the knowledge and education so we do feel comfortable in asking questions. So we are double checking sources and not spreading misinformation and even stopping misinformation in its tracks. So on to health screening for early detection in chronic illnesses and viruses. As I stated, it's just very important to be able to be in tune with your body. I loved your analogies and about your eating on your body and exercising, moving is definitely important. At the simplest thing, being able to go for a walk and move, stay active, and then pulling in mental health, but I know that's coming later. It all works together. And making sure that we are getting physicals every year is important. And another thing on top of the mistrust in the African American community in healthcare would be the lack of men that engage in healthcare. You historically see a lot more women, mothers are the sort of the leaders of the household when it comes to healthcare and stuff. And our Black men have to do that as well. So it's important to be going and getting a yearly physical. Even if you're not going to the doctor all the time, going at least once a year and getting your blood pressure checked, getting blood work. They call it like a full panel where they check your cholesterol, they're checking your blood sugar. All those things are important. And it sort of feeds into knowing what's going on in your body. If you don't know what your normal blood pressure is, how are you going to be able to know if your blood pressure is high? Or same thing with your blood sugar and things like that. So those are very important. And for my women, you know, in addition to our regular physical exams with doctors, we have to make sure we're taking care of our reproductive system. So a Pap test is every 3 years, but something that most women don't know is you can get a well woman visit every year. And that's something where they don't do a Pap test, they do like a pelvic exam, but it still provides some security that everything is working as it should. So I want to encourage women to definitely stay on top of that. I want to encourage my Black men to engage in healthcare. I want to encourage all of us to make sure that we're not scared to ask questions. If a doctor says something to you and you're not understanding what they said, ask them, ask them to clarify, ask them to tell you in layman's terms. I'm very notorious for saying, okay, can you break that down to me in kindergarten style? I need you to break it down for me. And the more that we do that, the more we build our confidence up, that we're not feeling sort of shame to ask questions or say that we don't understand something. I could keep going. Any questions so
I
far?
agree. Like you said that people need to do health screenings and at least do like overall checkups. Like something that I guess kind of like clicked with me, and it was a few months back. The Smith family, these are very wealthy people. They have the best doctors, the best nutritionists, they have personal trainers. As a family, they decided to do an overall health panel. And you wouldn't believe the health issues that they have. And I'm like, if these people got money to have, you know, people to come cook them healthy meals, they have the best doctors, you know what I'm saying? They have the means to eat the best type of food, the best organic food. They can afford all of this nice stuff, and they have the same health issues as the rest of us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, if they have money, I'm like, okay, what is if I don't have their finances and their resources, then like what's going on with my health? And it was like almost scary, like, dang, if this is happening with them, what's going on with me? And it was more of like, you know, like I'm kind of like fearful, but it's like I need to know, because if they're tackling the same things with high cholesterol and food intolerance, leaky gut, parasites, high blood pressure, I'm like, like we need to get it together. Like this isn't just you know, like a us Black people thing. This is like all of us, no matter what our economic status is. We need to be a bit more proactive about seeing what's going on with our health and not being afraid to do it. Because and most of it, a lot of it is our males. I don't know why they don't like to go to the doctor. Y'all will be on the deathbed before you finally just say, okay, take me to the hospital. Okay, well, make me a doctor's appointment. That don't need to happen. That is decreasing your life expectancy. And at this time, if the police are taking you down, and then now you're getting taken down by health issues, things that you could probably fix if you just went to the doctor, like that's taking away from the Black men that we need in our community. And that's hurting everybody. So thank you, Peter, for at least for showing us a face of a Black male that's like proactive about their health, because this is important for people to see. Like we need this type of stuff. This personal fitness and staying healthy, it's no joke. These screenings, these are very helpful, because you don't want it to keep festering and go on, and then now you have an issue that it's not easily fixable anymore. Something that if you would have did it 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 2 years ago, you could have helped it. And then now it's something that it's like out of reach. Now you feel bad because now you're really sick and it can't be helped. And a lot of these things can be fixed. A lot of the chronic illnesses you can treat. They don't have to be as fatal as they are. It's way too many people dying from high blood pressure and diabetes and stuff that don't have to be. What was the director that was so young and died of what is his name?
John Singleton?
Made Boys in the Hood. Yes.
John Singleton?
Died way too, yes. He died way too young and of issues that could have been helped.
And that just lets you know as far as that just lets you know as far as how deep disparities run. I mean, there are studies out there that show, you know, the health of African American woman or man, even with equal income, will have the life expectancy of a poor white woman or poor white man. Just to let you know, and then how it transcends just health, but it's their social economics that all those things is not penetrating and changing the health outcomes and the disparities. And then I think also that mistrust, that historical mistrust, especially among men, which is why a push to get people that look like us in STEM fields as physician assistants, as physicians in public health and research, and being able to build that cultural competency in healthcare in general, that can make it a little bit easier to have a pathway to health, or to have a primary care. One thing, make sure you have a primary care physician, all those things sort of come into play. It's a little bit easier when somebody looks like you or can understand where you're coming from.
Thank
There
you.
was
um, Meredith.
something you said, sorry, Dr. Meredith, there was something that you said that resonated with me, and I think we should put a lot more emphasis. You said you ask questions and they should talk to you like, kindergarten style. And that is so true. That's why I used the analogies I did, because I truly do believe if you can't explain something to a 6-year-old, you don't understand it.
Right.
So literally, I think we should humble ourselves and tell them anytime we're asking anything, whether you're at the doctor's office or at the bank or wherever you are, anytime they mention something and you don't fully understand it, make sure they explain it to you in a way that you do before you leave, because that's how a lot of us tend to get messed up, because we just don't get it.
Leave, don't ask any questions. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Tanya and Chris, can you guys unmute yourselves? Because this is another thing that is so important in our community. That's why we're holding these rallies. We are trying to give everybody information that is very much needed in our community, things that that we're lacking, that we need help with. And we have Life Coach, my twin over here, Chris, and my sis Latanya, who is a marriage and family therapist. And they are going to help us, especially with something that is the biggest stigma in the Black community, and that's our mental health, because there's still so many of us that think that, that's a make-believe thing, that's only for crazy people, that you can go pray it away. Well, you know what? God made all these doctors and psychologists and psychiatrists and motivational speakers for a reason. We need, like Dr. Meredith said, holistic health. And that's what comes with the mental health. So.
Okay. Thank you, Kimas. Thank you, everybody, for your education and doing the work. Like, I appreciate you. And sometimes we have that question, well, why does it have to be me? Why would God make me have all this information? But sometimes he chooses that vessel for a reason, because he needs your make and your model to reach whoever he needs you to reach, or she needs you to reach, because we don't know. But the biggest lie, I think, especially living in America, is that this is success versus this. Okay, so I think that's why we see a lot of because a lot of people view celebrities, unfortunately, as idols, as gods, as this all around type of perfect being. But as you see, people committing suicide and attempting suicide and things of that nature, or murdering somebody, or whatever the case may be, it shows you that they're human. They're human beings. We all are. And definitely as Black people, it's a lot that we carry. And a lot of us don't like asking for help. We don't. We want to get up and do it ourselves, whatever it is. And it's embarrassing. But honestly, it's not about asking for help. It's about your right to have the help that you deserve, because you have been carrying so much as a people. It's your right. You deserve to live the best life you can while you're here, because your ancestors fought so hard for you to survive, right? I know we have in the media, we have Tamar Braxton and her suicide attempt. We have Nick Cannon talking about he contemplated suicide recently, and recently lost a friend to suicide around the same time he was thinking about it. And we have Kanye West and his issues, right? Him being diagnosed with bipolar and things of that nature. Okay, I want to tell you, the scariest thing is to have it all and it still not be enough. It's scary. Like, we've all been told to go to school, get a job, make some money, provide for your family, whatever the case may be. But the scariest place, right, is to get there and this not be able to sustain it, right? So that is where we need to start when it comes to really making sure our mental health is a priority. And we need to stop looking at celebrities as other than human, as their gods, as we need to worship them. Okay, even people, anybody in the spotlight. Okay, your pastor may not know it all. All right, your president may not know it all. We're not going to go there because we'll be talking all day. But you know, they're human beings, right? So those of us who are identify as human, all of you have a right to make sure you're taking care of your mental health. All right, your physical health, make sure you're voting, all of the things we talked about today. So I know Kima wanted me to touch on like each individual person. Is that what you wanted me to do?
No, you didn't have to. I just wanted people to just to kind of know that, like, once again, it's not, mental health is not just the thing that people think that, oh, it's for either people who crazy or rich white people. That's a luxury that they get to.
Okay, though. Oh my gosh.
And
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? And it's like, it's that close. Like, it's one day you're watching How to Catch a Beautician with Tamar Braxton, and the next day it's like she's in the hospital for a suicide attempt. And then how does it go from somebody I'm looking at watching on reality shows thinking that she's got it together, and then now we're thinking that she might have tried to take her life. Nick Cannon, who's somebody I love, Wild 'N Out, that's one of my favorite shows. He actually has been doing a lot these days with protesting. He's been out in the fields himself, holding up signs, donating money. And then next thing you know, he's like, he don't know if he want to be here anymore. So it don't matter who you are, how much money you have, it can hit you. And then when it does, what do?
Right. Me personally, I'm a therapist and I'm also a Black woman. I'm going to have my therapist for as long as I want her. Okay? Because I get to take the cape off when I'm in her office, just vent and talk about my life and become a better me, a healed version of me, or a healing version, because we're always ever changing, right? To like tie some of the stuff in together, when it comes to mental health, how you can also tell that somebody's not taking care of their mental health is their physical health. You can tell. You have people that go into eating. You have people that when they're sad, they smoke a lot, they drink a lot, right? A lot of people have been self-medicating and didn't know that that's what they were doing. Like anytime you calling up the homies or whatever to go smoke, and you find yourself, okay, it's not just that one day, it's every day I need to smoke, you're self-medicating and you need to talk to somebody. Because talking to somebody and in conjunction, because you may be prescribed, like a lot of people, and something we need to normalize, you may be prescribed like medication for depression or anxiety or whatever the case may be. It is perfectly fine, especially if you're somebody that drinks or smokes. It's perfectly fine because when you realize the reason for you picking it up, you're doing it anyway. So why not do it in a healthy way? But the thing about medication I think people are afraid of is the stigma of being called crazy, and they don't want to be dependent on that. They don't want to have to take it forever. How you avoid taking it forever is by having a therapist alongside. The medication is just to stabilize you. You get what I'm saying? So if you have depression, you have these negative thoughts constantly coming in, your therapist can't reach you that way, right? So if you're prescribed a medication, not saying everybody will need a medication, there might be something holistic that you can do. A lot of mental illness is also related to vitamin D, like Peter said earlier, like a lot of like your sadness, when you're inside, because a lot of us tend to isolate when we're sad and you don't get enough sun, that can also heighten the depression. And I said at the last rally, if you're Black and you're aware of what we go through every day, 9 times out of 10, you have depression. It's just our depression doesn't look like, oh, I'm sleeping in the bed all day. Our depression looks like we're getting up and going to work every day. that's what it looks like. But we're getting attitudes with people. We're snappy when we come home, and we don't want to hear nothing from our kids, from our spouse. It's depression. Okay, when you don't feel like working out or don't feel like eating the right thing, even though you know it's good for you, that's part of our depression. It is. Okay, and it's nothing to be ashamed about, because if you're an aware Black person, you have it. How could you not? And it's passed down from generation to generation to generation. For whatever your mom and dad didn't deal with, whatever your grandparents didn't deal with, great grandparents didn't deal with on back, that's what you're carrying. I promise you, it's in our cells, right? It's in our DNA. That's what you're dealing with. So right now, when you have access to therapy, there's free therapy. Like, it's so many, especially during this pandemic, there's a lot of people offering free therapy. Okay, so research, right? If you have insurance, a lot of us, you getting that extra, what, 200 taken out of each check for your insurance, get a therapist. Okay, there's even studies shown that, okay, they mentioned that a lot of people wait till they on their deathbed. I'm pretty sure somebody knows of somebody that had cancer. They didn't tell the family to the last minute and they're out of here, right? Okay, because they didn't want the family to know. I don't want nobody feeling sorry for me, or I'm embarrassed, or whatever the case may be. Studies show that you're more likely to survive a terminal illness if you're surrounded by people who love you versus going along with it alone. Okay, so take that when it comes to being fully connected and taking everything around you that keeps your body moving, how important it is, right? We mentioned, okay, so the whole Kanye West thing, right? When somebody comes out and says that they have a disorder, right? That should no longer be the person that you're looking up to as God. Like, it shouldn't. And they've told you that they're not taking their medication, they're not going to therapy, that's an issue. Okay, so what you're seeing, I know people want to like try to explain it away and say, oh, we need to help him, but Kanye West is an adult and he has access to way more resources than we do, right? So he is accountable for not going to therapy and not taking his medication, right? Just like every one of us is. We're responsible for our own happiness and our own well-being. Another thing in the Black community, and it's connected to the coronavirus, man, couples are really starting to know each other. The divorce rate is super high. The breakup rate is super high. Domestic violence is high. Even child abuse is high, right? When it comes to the Black community, I know sometimes we say, okay, I want to marry a Black man, I want to marry a Black woman because they get it. True, that's fine to say, right? But that Black woman and that Black man is not your dumping ground for all the stuff that you refuse to resolve and you refuse to heal. That's not the excuse that you need to give yourself when it comes to having a therapist on your own to deal with your own childhood trauma. Because I promise you, if you look at your spouse or you look at a partner that you've been with for a certain amount of time, guess what? Guess why you're attracted to them? Because your first examples of love are your parents. So I bet you can connect like 5 characteristics that your parents have that your partner has in common. So unconsciously, we expect our partners and our friends to repair the relationship we had with our parents. It's true, right? If you look back you can even look back of all the people you dated up until your spouse, and why I liked him because he was a party goer, or he was the life of the party, or she was beautiful and she was strong and she was independent. What you're describing is that parental figure, right? That was your first example of love. Okay, so it's important because you don't want to continuously have arguments and get in disagreements based off of something that your parents need to heal you from, or that you need to go and talk out in therapy. And a lot of people were doing that to each other. And a lot of us, sidebar, is you're more focused on looking the part than actually being the part. Like, who's really doing the work? It's more people focused on, okay, let me take this picture of my new car or my new job or my new outfit or my new whatever, my new house, but the house is trash on the inside. It is. You're a broken person, okay? So why not be able to sustain everything that unfortunately the world has taught you you need to obtain to have some sort of value, which is a lie. But if that's what you're striving for, if everybody's striving to be a millionaire, to have a mansion, to have a big house and a car and a family, right? Let's sustain it by making sure that we take care of our mental health.
Tanya,
Hmm?
and you kind of addressed this just a little bit, but I wanted you to iterate when folks would say, you know, well, when I go smoke with my guys, or when I have a glass of wine with my girls and I talk to them, that's the time that I used to talk to them about my issues. So I don't really need a therapist because I'm already talking to somebody about it. How would you respond to those folks?
Okay, number one, your friends are not your therapist, okay? You know that saying, let's check on your strong friend? Who do they have to talk to? The one that's always like, I mean, like really, you have to really sit back and self-reflect. Everybody knows who that strong friend is. And when you talk to them, all you're doing is talking about yourself, and they're sitting there listening to you, and they're not able to get a word in about how they day went. And even if they try to relate it to you to help you, you back talking about yourself again. Hey, that's the role that they play, but they're not responsible for your healing. You get what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that, okay, you shouldn't talk to people, because I want people to have friends to lean on, because that's what they're there for. But there's still a performance that we all do. You get what I'm saying? Like, you're not really as truthful as you need to be when it comes to having these conversations that so-called make you feel better. A lot of us only tell our version of the story, right? But we need to know the why. Like, if you're in an abusive relationship and you're telling your friend, man, I'm tired of this person, or whatever the case may be, they can tell you, oh, you need to leave, you're so valuable and you're so worthy, right? Okay, then you leave. But man, now I need closure. Your closure don't come from going back to that person and asking them questions. And your friend may not have that information. The closure comes from, why did you end up in a relationship like that in the first place? And your therapist needs to tell you why you made these decisions, so that you don't repeat the same mistakes. And I'm sure a lot of us got those friends. A lot of us were those people on the low that were constantly in toxic situations. And you know, the spiritual factor is, I used to say, okay, sometimes God will keep putting you in the same situation when you didn't get the lesson the first time, you know? And the same friends, you got the same crew around you, right? But you still ain't changing. So is it really helping? No. Go to a therapist, right? And have that therapist, he or she, walk you through the decisions that you're making. Because guess who's the common denominator? It's you, okay? So when it comes to, all right, I'm just gonna talk to my boys, I'm gonna talk to my girls, that's okay, that's fine. But the deeper issue, if you wanna really heal and stop making these decisions that have you sad and, you know, feeling unworthy and worthless, and this self-hate and your self-esteem is low, don't just pull from other people. You have to get to the place of healing to where you can get it from yourself. So no matter what nobody tell you, no matter what nobody has, where you're not jealous, oh, they all married, why am I not? All of that, okay? So you're not, now you're isolating yourself because you feel like you don't fit in. It's because you haven't done that work, and you owe it to yourself to do that work, to not just look the part, but actually be the part.
I think people need to also understand as well that there's a difference between venting and expressing yourself, expressing your feelings, and therapy.
Mm-hmm.
You could sit and express yourself all day long, and you will feel better. But actually understanding why it is that you feel that way to begin with, that journey of self-discovery, that is your beginning. You know, finding out, taking a look at what's going on, being able to identify certain things. Now, as we said, your friends are great. Your friends are wonderful. You may have friends that are in the mental health field or in different fields and what have you, you know, but a lot of us, that's not who we're talking to about these things. You know, we're talking to our friend that is a chef for a living, you know, or they do, you know, do something else entirely. So we're thinking, oh yeah, you know, this is my go-to, but it's like, okay, they don't even quite know what to tell you. They just want to make you feel better and listen to you so that you can get out what's inside of you. But perception, your perception is 100% of your reality. So in order to be able to see clearly, you have to have foundation. You have to have understanding of what you're looking at, you see. So I think that's something that's just very important for us to remember as we're moving forward in our journey, and we're seeking help. We're seeking to heal ourselves. That should be part of our diet, is that therapy. Your diet is not just what you eat and drink. It's anything that you take into your body mentally, physically, spiritually, whoever is within 5 to 10 feet of you. You know, all of that, their energy, whatever is going on around you, it's part of your ecosystem. That is a part of your diet. Wherever you go, whatever you do, all of these things are going to affect you, and they're going to affect you in a way that we're not always prepared for, even conscious of. So having someone, I look at a therapist also as an interpreter, you know, because they're able to go ahead and look at what's going on, look at certain behaviors, symptoms, and what have you, and past history and other things, and glean forward and go, okay, well, this is this because of this. This is this because of this. They're able to wade through it in a way that we can't, because we don't have that expertise. We don't have that understanding. We're still not able to see everything because our perception is off, you know.
Yes. And I'm not his therapist, by the way. We don't do that over here. Okay. I know some people be like, oh, just marry a therapist. Like I had a client the other day saying that, oh, I want my wife to fix me and to change me. And his mother was like, oh, you should just marry a therapist. I was like, ma'am, no, that's not what we're doing. It is not her responsibility, or it's not his responsibility. They're not responsible for the happiness. They can support you, right, in your healing and in your journey and everything you got going on, but they are not responsible for you taking that step, right, and healing yourself.
Y'all seen that play out in the media when Kanye said that Kim tried to get a doctor and to fly out to come and see him. So that
Yeah. Exactly. And a lot of people
not,
were like, oh, you know, what are the Kardashians doing? It's the Kardashian curse or whatever. And then people were even trying to say, Black women, see, this is why Kanye needs you. No, cut it out. No, what you mean? Like Kanye spoke to his doctor and he said, okay, when I got an album coming out, I'm not taking my medication. That's on him. No one else but that person.
And it's also the perception. If you look at how people responded, oh, that's his wife, she shouldn't be trying to call a doctor on him or bring somebody in to try to come take him off somewhere. Let me explain something to you. My wife is a therapist, okay? I'm a life coach. I've got 14 years experience in mediation and all of these other different areas. I'm a Black man. Aside from everything else, I'm also what you call a triple diagnosis, okay, in regards to mental health. That means that I have not one diagnosis of something that's wrong, but I have 3 separate mental health issues, which have a plethora of other symptoms that go with them, which all string together and do their own separate amounts of damage. Now, as a professional, I can't sit there and look at her and go, okay, well, you know, you're my wife. It's about that time. It's time for you to hook me up, get razzle dazzle, get, do what you do.
Mhm.
That's not fair. That's not fair for me to do as her husband, or just as someone who loves her, period. Because my health, my mental health is my responsibility first. Just like my happiness, my internal happiness is my job first. I can't come over here and tell her, okay, well, I love you, so it's your job to make me happy. It's your job to make me whole. It's your job to put me together now, because the two of us, we make one complete person, right? That's not the way it goes. A lot of people seek out another person to make themselves whole. We have this 50-50 concept that the two of us together make 100% when you're in a relationship. But the truth is, you have a responsibility to do 100% of your 50%
Mhm.
in the relationship.
And see, that's why
So
people was mad at Will and Jada, because Will told her, he said, I'm not responsible for your happiness. I'm not going to try to make you happy anymore, because they had problems prior to their split. And that's what he was trying to do things to make her happy, but she felt like she felt like he was doing what he wanted to make her happy and not what she wanted him to do to make her happy. And he just threw his hands up. He said, I'm done. He said,
Mhm.
I take my hands off of it. It's no longer my responsibility. You go find your own happiness. Because obviously, all his efforts to make her happy, if it's not the things that she needs to make her happy, then both of y'all just mad. He's mad because he think he tried, and then she's mad because, oh, you tried, but you didn't try in a way that you knew that wasn't gonna work. You're right.
Mhm.
You can't put your own happiness in somebody else's hands, because if you do that, you're gonna lose.
Mhm.
right, and it was part of what Peter had alluded to earlier. When you're talking about what decision are you going to make in regards to your health and your well-being? Are you going to sit around and you're going to know that you're not as healthy as you need to be in your relationship? You're not as healthy as you need to be with what you're doing in your personal life and your financial life? Or are you going to go ahead and step up and take responsibility for your own personal health? You know yourself more better than anybody else. You are the number one and primary when it comes to your health.
Mhm.
So nobody else can come in and tell you all these different things about you without you going ahead and being proactive first.
Yeah.
That's
very accurate. And I think another thing that'll also help is parenting. Teaching your child how to be an emotionally stable being. Like I said on the last rally, that I don't remember being asked, how am I feeling today? What are you stressed about? What stress? You don't have no stress. What you got to stress about? You're a kid. Like, why are you sad, or whatever the case may be? Giving your children that space to be able to express themselves, I think, is a step in the right direction, and one of the keys to breaking this cycle of these mental health issues. I also, as well, like when Peter said, I wish that they taught from a very young age, like the benefits of eating and exercising, and like the details of it versus the basic how you eat, or how you exercise. Just go to PE and do it. They don't show you all those things. I also wish that when it came to psychology, that was also broken down and taught, and not just that, cultural competence in psychology, because we experience things differently as Black people. Still, we still hurt, we still bleed too, but there's certain things in our community that hold us back from being who we were destined to be and truly be healthy. Like Kima said earlier, okay, people think, oh, you could just pray away sadness, right? Would you pray away a stab wound? Anybody Anybody raise their hand, let me know, because we need to get you assessed. But so why would you pray away your sadness and you not loving yourself and all the different emotions, the negative emotions we feel about each other every single day? Also, like, my parents told me I was beautiful, right? But the media did not, because I didn't often see myself. Yeah, I had Brandy when I was younger, but I didn't have like these examples of beauty that looked like me. Like we had Whoopi Goldberg, right? But the media kept telling me she was ugly, right? Even though she looked like me, they kept telling me she was ugly. Why did they call her ugly? I think it's because of her African features, right? Like we talked about last rally, and we talked about people calling Jay-Z ugly or Biggie Smalls ugly. Well, why are they ugly, right? So our parents can tell us all day, right? But if you still see certain behaviors in your child, because they'll let you know. Like if your 3-year-old is saying, I want to lose weight, there's a bigger issue than just what she's eating. Okay. If your 5 or 6-year-old is saying, okay, I want blonde hair, why can't I have hair like them? And you put them in an all-white school, right? It's more than just telling them they're beautiful. Okay. You can put them in therapy too, right? If you don't have, and it's okay to say that you don't have all the tools, because you're not going to. Like, you're still dealing with your stuff. So how can you honestly understand somebody else's stuff if you haven't healed through what you've healed through? And honestly, asking for help is doing way more of a benefit than just trying to handle it yourself when you know you don't have it together. If you still see it, if you see yourself constantly saying you're beautiful and your child still isn't feeling it, you have a depressed kid. You do, right? No matter if you buying them the latest Jordans, the latest iPhone, the latest iPad, and you're like, see, I got you this. You have nothing to be depressed about. That is the wrong thing to do, because we talked about it earlier. That is the most scariest place of depression, okay? The most scariest place of depression is to have it all and still feel like nothing, like Phyllis Hyman, Donny Hathaway, Don Cornelius, what's the guy name? Robin Williams, right? Having it all and still feeling like nothing. And we talked about what Jada Pinkett and Will Smith, having it all, right? Because people cheat based off of self-esteem. If you want to know more about that, I'll tell you about that. You hit me up and I'll tell you. But people, cheating has to do with the ego. It has nothing to do with the person that you're with at all. Okay? Everything you do to destroy what you've created and it's making you selfish is because you weren't selfish with your mental health. That is why you're behaving in a way to where you dishonor yourself and you dishonor your family. Right? It's because that little part of you that was broken, that you didn't get healed, is screaming for attention and is going to wreak havoc on everything it comes into contact with, because you haven't given that little child a voice and let him or her speak and have them a place to heal.
And that's why it's so important to take advantage of your resources.
Mm-hmm.
Please do.
Please.
Everybody comment, put your websites or your Instagram or your Facebook page, put them in the comments and like and share it for anybody that wants to reach out afterwards. This video is going to stay up on our Facebook page, and it will also be a YouTube link really soon. So make sure you put all your information under here so that people will be able to come back and find out if I need to go, ask a question about politics, let me get with, Dr. Ladina, or if I need to, I forgot about that workout plan, where's Peter, how do I contact him? Put all of your information in here. Latanya also has a podcast, Live and Be Great, good inspirational podcast, something good to pick you up, especially on Sundays, how you can just have that constant positive affirmations going on. Put all of this information in the comment section. Reach out to us, send us messages, DMs, if there's something that you want us to talk about. If we do another rally, did we leave out an area of expertise? You know, I don't really have any close friends who are attorneys. That might be something to look into, and criminal justice, or somebody in the educational system. We're all about trying to pull our resources together right now to help each other. It's just not in a state of emergency. We're in a country of emergency, and quite frankly, Black people have been in this state of emergency for a long time, and it took for coronavirus to let the rest of the world know that we are in state of emergency, that we really do need these resources, and that we are doing everything that we can. If you follow Fifth Wall on Instagram, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We also have petitions and stuff going for all of these social justice cases. We will be circulating all of those, giving you information how you can help out and let your voice be heard on these different platforms, and to help these people seek justice, like Breonna Taylor, like Ahmaud, like Elijah. There was another lady I just seen in the media today. We want to be able to have this information to give to people, because I don't want people to be like, I want to do something and I don't know how. That's why we're here, so that you have the resources to do something. And that if you feel like you have a resource to contribute, please tell us, so that we can spread it to everybody else. And I'm so glad everybody joined us today. I learned a few things. That's why I was glad that we got to do this again, because I'm always ready to learn something new, especially from people that I really care about. And thanks everybody for taking time out of your busy schedules and letting the world see all these wonderful Black professionals and Savannah State alumni and Dublin people. I love y'all. And for coming together. So don't ever let anybody ever say the Black community cannot come together, because this pandemic has shown us we really can unite when we really want to. We have been coming together a lot. And just like our promo said, the fight is not over. We're going to be here. We're going to be having resources. We're going to be supporting each other. And we are going to be making sure that we have information and resources that we need to be a stronger community, and to bond and to uplift each other. That's what all of this is about. And I appreciate you guys so much.
Of course, we appreciate you for bringing us together.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. I love you guys. Like I said, this will be up, and you guys enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And I appreciate you guys so much. This information was great. So you're going to see it circulating a lot, because I'm going to keep reposting so people can get knowledge today.
We'll repost too.
And tomorrow and next week.
We will be
Spread
sharing.
knowledge.
Awesome.
That's
And
right.
thank you guys.
Thank you.
All right now.
Bye.
Take care.
You too.
Bye.
Peace
too.
and blessings,
Thank you,
everybody.
everybody.
Peace, everybody.